Okay, good evening once again. I'm going to jump right back into where I left off a moment ago. For those of you who are just joining in, my name is Brother Lewis. I'm a part of an organization called the United House of Prayer for All People, and I've been making videos pertaining to corruption within leadership. Again, I'm going to jump right back into what I was saying in the last video. This is part. This is going to be part 3. I left off talking about the compensation of, in this particular segment on the website, compensation of the nonprofit criminal executives. And we all know, by now we should know, that there are many nonprofit organizations that individuals have been paying their CEOs outrageous amounts in the salary. They actually have a list on the website of a few of them. And it shows the salaries of these different companies. There was a time when it was looked down upon and frowned on by the general populace, because again, we're talking about nonprofits. So when you're a nonprofit organization and you're relying on monies coming from either governmental bodies or the general population or private groups that you're soliciting funds from, whether it's the workforce or corporations or industry businesses, whatever the case may be. When you're soliciting funds or asking for funds or looking for contributions in a nonprofit, what you're saying is we're raising money for a specific cause, for a specific purpose, to help a specific situation or people in a specific condition. To give you an example, cancer research. There's many different groups that are seeking funds, raising funds constantly every day, just about throughout the course of the year, where they're looking for funds to come into their organization so that they can utilize those funds to develop cure for cancer or treatments for cancer or procedures, whatever, pertaining to that particular field to benefit society, those individuals that might end up with or who are currently dealing with cancer. But the idea is to utilize those funds for that specific purpose. When individuals hear that you are a nonprofit and you're raising money for that purpose, they may be willing to contribute or give. And their expectation is that those funds will be used for that purpose. What the populace does not know, the general population is not aware of the fact that for many of these nonprofit institutions, organizations, businesses, and companies or groups, that a great portion of those funds may be and at times has been allocated to the expense account that operates these companies. Within the operating costs are things that the company may feel is necessary for them to operate. However, when the public looks deeper, they may find that there are things that are involved within the operations of those companies that has nothing to do with the company operating. You have an entire budget that is allocated within the expense account also for labor cost, the cost of labor, or the workforce to pay employees. Now, a big problem with this is that this may be the largest expense account within these nonprofit organizations because some of them have literally paid up to 10 and upward of 20 and even 30% of the current fund for that year in salary cost to the CEO. Out of the corporation or the company's funds, their funding, a great deal of that may be going to one person to pay them for their services to that nonprofit, which is to simply run it. Now, whereas in many people's minds, this might be necessary. You may say, well, how's the company going to operate if they don't have anybody to run it? I say, okay, like many others, say, okay, that's a fair question. But the problem that people have is if you're soliciting funds for the cause of cancer research, for the cause of feeding the poor, for the cause of offering housing to the homeless, for the cause of helping individuals in their time of need, calamity strikes, natural disaster, hurricane relief funds, earthquake relief funds, tornado, tsunami, fire, wildfires we all know that hit the West Coast not too long ago. And this is all the time. Drought, during times of drought, that's a big problem. People are in need. There's many times that not even natural disaster, but when there's an outbreak, when you're dealing with economical downfalls, downturns, when you're dealing with issues because of politics, people are going to end up in need. So you have groups of people who say, well, we're getting together for that purpose. Well, the money that's being given to them, many people say, again, we all agree, I believe, should go towards those causes. But it really did hurt the public trust. People stopped trusting in nonprofits when they heard that 50, 60, 70%, sometimes even more, of the funding in these companies and organizations, the money went towards payroll. And when you're contributing all this money, and the money is going towards payroll, and 30%, 20%, sometimes now 10% of the money coming in is going towards whatever the cause is that's being advertised and publicized. 10%. You have now all kinds of individual celebrities, television evangelists, TV personalities, radio personalities. There's all types of influencers, retired personalities, whether it's politics or entertainment, musicians, singers, other venues to include athletes that are opening up all kinds of nonprofits. Are they doing it to help society? And there's a huge question pertaining to this field because it's been determined that all nonprofits are not opening to help the cause that they've been advertising. So a lot of nonprofits are now taking and taking and taking. And instead of helping that cause, they're taking and putting in their pocket. So this individual, they write on this website, and I'm going to go down a little so that you can actually see. Let me shrink this. The individual is, of course, and I completely understand, speaking from a position of personal ideology, how upsetting it is for him who's writing this that there are individuals who take advantage of loopholes so that they can take from people, misappropriate funds, misuse funds while lying to the public about it. And they're doing this whole thing, and they say yet that I'm working for a greater good. So there's some language on this site, but the information nonetheless is still true and valid. But they say tax exempt nonprofit organizations or a charity is no different from a for-profit entity. Where there is money, there will always be greed. Where there is money, there will also be power. And mankind is prone to abuse both. And we certainly see that in our organization, where there's an abuse of power and abuse of the monies in the holding accounts. So we see frivolous spending. We see misappropriation of funds. We see the use of funds going into things that the members may know nothing whatsoever about. So whenever you have, again, situations where people have access to funds and funding without getting approval, without the need to seek approval, without those individuals who are in positions to approve to even be aware of it, you have a very big problem on your hands. And we have a very big problem on our hands. So I've been saying, and if I haven't said it before, up until this point, it's 11 minutes in, this video is for informational and educational purposes only. But I've been saying that whenever you have individuals inside of a nonprofit that has access to the funds and they can spend it haphazardly without regard to anyone giving them approval or even being made aware of how they're spending it, when they're spending it, what they're spending it on. The people have no part or place in the decision making. You have a very big problem on your hands. So I've been saying in the last few videos, and this series is called We Can, We Will, We Must, We've Got to Do Better. So I've also been saying that change is coming. And as a result of all these things, change must come. So it says, again, people are prone to abuse power and money. In for-profit corporations, the shareholders and the investors question the executives. Whenever you have a for-profit company, the executives, they're being interrogated, they're being ringed. You're going to answer to the shareholders, and you're going to answer to the people who put money in that company as an investor. You're going to answer to them. You're not going to be an executive in this company and not tell me what you're doing with the money that I invest in. That's how they hold them accountable. They're going to answer to them because they understand the relationship between a shareholder and the CEO. You work for me. I put my money in this company. No, you're going to make sure you tell me everything that you're doing and how you're doing it before I give another dime. Every single year, I need to give an account. You need to give me an account, rather, for how you spent the money that I put in this company. That's how they treat it because it's a business relationship. They do not give the CEO lights, rights, and benefits to do anything and everything they want with no accountability to them whatsoever. In a nonprofit, it's completely different. In a nonprofit, they don't question a lot of times their executives. Because in a nonprofit, the money that's being raised is not predominantly being raised by a bunch of investors. In nonprofits, you're working with contributors. People are giving it. And they're just giving it with the hopes that you're doing with the money that you say that you're going to do with it. Investors, on the other hand, they're not giving. No, this is an investment. And when I give you 10 million of my dollars, no, you need to show me how you spent it because I'm looking for growth. I'm not looking for frivolous spending. I'm not looking for you to take it and spend it on a lavish lifestyle. And then you come back to tell me, oh, well, I don't know what to tell you. No, that's not going to work. Nonprofits are different in that regard. The faith of the donor in a nonprofit organization is in its board. The board of directors are the ones that the contributors in a nonprofit, they put their hopes in to make sure that the board of directors understand how their money is being spent. It's no longer my money because I'm giving it to a nonprofit. I can write it off, but I'm hoping that you're putting it to use in the area that you say that you're going to use my contribution. More often than not, in a nonprofit, the organization's CEO, they have a dictator type personality. And they use that dictatorial power, their dictatorship, to pretty much strong arm the organization. And they act like a dictator and a tyrant because most of the time, the one who's the CEO in a nonprofit is the individual that started it. They'll chair it, and they'll be the CEO to run it, while they put their family members in the board of directors. And their family members are going to do what they say because this is family. I put y'all in the business so that I can make money, and I'm going to take care of y'all. And it's all done sneakily under wraps. But it's irrelevant in that situation that the board of directors has the authority to hire and fire the CEO, because in a nonprofit, the lawmaker is supposed to be the board, but remember, a lot of times it's the family members, while they're giving excuse, liberty, freedom for that person to do what they're doing. They say, in a situation like this, a dictator only has the IRS to answer to because they know that I can pretty much do whatever I want. We're in that type of situation now where our leaders feel like they can do anything they want because they're pretty much daring the members to do something about it. So when we see that we're having all these problems and our leaders are not compliant with our own laws, let alone the laws of the land, if you have a CEO who's in a position where he's getting paid, an employee, but he comes in and says, I'm going to oversee the board of directors, and you all are going to do what I say. This is a problem. A bigger problem is when the CEO does not let the board of directors tell them how they're going to get paid. How does this work? When the members of our organization has the authority to put a CEO in position, then immediately the CEO turns around and says, thank you, I'm now in charge, and all of y'all are going to do what I say. How does that work? So ours is now saying, forget the fact that I've been breaking these laws. Forget the fact that y'all now know that I've been breaking these laws. Forget the fact that there's people down there that's trying to uphold the laws, that's trying to hold me accountable to the law. Forget that fact. Forget those laws. Forget them, and forget you. You're all going to do what I say, and the people that I got working for me, y'all going to do what they say too. So what do you do in that type of situation? The board of directors, otherwise known as the General Assembly, they need to march in there and they say, enough is enough. You took advantage of my ignorance all these years. Just like that movie with J-Lo. enough is enough. When she got fed up, when she got sick and tired, and she found out that she could fight back, she went into training. And when she got done, she became a force to be reckoned with. And the individual that was brutalizing her, traumatizing her, instilling nothing but fear into her, when she got done, she met him full on, eye to eye, and she put herself in a position not only where she could fight back, but she taught him a lesson that he would never forget. And she came out victorious. Why? Because she had had enough, and she told herself, enough is enough. She said, I can, I will, I must, I'm going to do better. And while she was training herself, hitting the bags, in her mind, she was telling herself, change is coming. What I'm telling all the delegates is to learn the rules of order, how to present information, how to make sure that you're not being taken advantage of, how to control the meeting and the narrative, because they're going to try to do everything they can to make the meeting go their way. They're going to try to cheat. They're going to try to present arguments. They're going to try to talk over you. They're going to try to belittle you. They're going to try to intimidate you. They're going to try anything and everything that they can to make sure that this meeting goes exactly the way that it's been going, so that nothing gets done. And so that the people come in there and do what they've been doing, so that every leader can stay in those positions and march right back out. And the organization stay stifled in this situation that we're dealing with right now. That's what they're hoping. That's what they're planning. That's what they're looking for. So I'm saying, while they're plotting and planning to continue as usual, manipulating and lying and deceiving and trying to strong arm the members of the organization, I'm saying, no, the members have had enough. And at this point in time, I think that it's necessary to show you the dangers of allowing this to continue. So, as we talk about the compensation of these CEOs, I'm going to read one more section. And then I'm going to show you why this is so important. Nonprofit excessive compensations. The only difference is when a for-profit corporation goes bankrupt, shareholders and investors lose money. And when they lose money, a shareholder, if this company, this big household name company, go out of business, oh, you're going to hear about it. Because people invested money into that business. And they're wondering, how did that business go out of business? How did that business go bankrupt? It had to have been because of shoddy, poor management coming from within leadership. They're the ones at fault. Who's the one made the decisions? And then they point to the CEO and other leaders. The CEO might point to the board of directors. The board of directors is going to point right back to the CEO. The shareholders, the investors, they're looking at the CEO and the board. Now, because they're upset about losing their money, it's going to make headline news because they don't like it and they don't want other people making their mistake. When a tax-exempt nonprofit organization goes under, there's no one to take the hit, not even the board. Donors who contribute to a nonprofit, they're not going to cry out, they're not going to scream, they're not going to bring attention to the news. Why? Because they don't care so much. Donors who give to a nonprofit, they're giving $20, $50, $100. They might give over and over and over and over and over again, but it's not those vast amounts of money that investors give. because the investor knows that they're giving so that they can get back. Donors to nonprofits, they're giving to help a cause. And if that nonprofit goes under, then okay, that nonprofit went under. But there's other nonprofits where I can continue to contribute my money to help these causes. So there's not going to be a whole lot of news about it. Now, here's your problem. When the nonprofit goes under, the contributor don't even want to know where their money went because they believe the cause. And as they're writing, I'm going to read exactly what they say. In most cases, they don't even want to know where their money went or goes, as long as the organization that they've been contributing to has a picture of a skinny black baby or a woman with a breast cut off on the header of their website. Because when I contribute money to this organization, I'm helping that little black baby. When I contribute money to this website, I'm helping that woman with one breast because of a issue that caused her to go through an operation where they had to cut it off. It's saddening. I want to help the cause. They believe that that's where their money's going. So, they continue, the real victims of this criminal racket, and that's exactly what it is. It's a criminal racket. The real victims are the poor, the class that was supposed to be served, but they have no voice. Their voice, if any, gets lost in the roar of the private jet engines and sports cars of the executives who stole their money in the name of making a difference. These executives who say that we're helping this cause and that cause, who taking the money and all this money going into contributions to help that cause, 70% is going into the pocket of the CEO or staff. CEO getting a lot of it. You're raising money and a CEO getting paid in a nonprofit of $1.5 million a year to operate and oversee a nonprofit organization. It's nonprofit, meaning you're not there to put money in your pocket. You knew that it's a nonprofit. And if you're working for a nonprofit, aren't you there for the cause to help people? If you want to get paid and line your pockets, then you don't go to a nonprofit. You go to a for-profit company and you compete in that arena with other executives who's going to operate those companies because they can get paid since that's what they're there for. But in a nonprofit, you're supposed to be there because you care about the cause, to help cancer research, to feed the hungry, to house the homeless, to build wells or water pumps to give fresh water to those in regions who don't have fresh water. That's not always in what we call third world countries. Sometimes it's in a place where it's been hit with a disaster. The cause is supposed to be bigger than you. They continue. I'm going to read this last part and then I'm going to go into something else. We are being told on an alarmingly increasing rate that being a charity and a nonprofit doesn't mean not making a profit. And that is an oxymoron. That's like the rapper named Biggie Smalls. Biggie Smalls. He's big but small. I talked about jumbo shrimp. How you going to have big shrimp? Right? I also talked about eyes wide shut. A lead balloon. Balloons are known to float and rise, but lead is known to sink. Oxymoron. When you have these charities doing these things, they continue. and these charities are making profit for their executives, then you're in the wrong business, because you shouldn't be taking money that people contribute for that cause to line your pockets with. Yeah, it's okay to get paid, because that's why you're there, to get paid to take care of your living expenses while operating the company as a CEO. But to get paid instead of 200 grand a year, 400 grand a year, which is a sizable income for somebody who's working for a nonprofit. But to get $1.5 million a year out of a nonprofit, to get $2 million a year out of a nonprofit, $2 million a year. In 10 years, you've just amassed $20 million for running a nonprofit. In 10 years. More and more tax-exempt nonprofits and charities are running mafia-style businesses as they hire and compensate their own relatives as CEO, CFO inside the organization with many six-figure incomes. Then the seven-figure elite supporters come in and tell us that only those making these ungodly sums have the intellect and capability to pull off the operations in these large entities. There's a question that they asked. They go on to say, why is excessive nonprofit executives' compensation an issue? Why is it an issue? It's not the legality of these gruesome tax-exempt executive compensations that is the issue. It's not the legality. That's not the issue. He says the issue is the morality and the deception of the whole business. It's immoral to start up a nonprofit to help this cause, and the money coming in to help that cause, you put 30% in your pocket as salary. That's the same as theft. You're stealing from the needy. These people need, they're in need, they're in dire straits, they're in a situation where you would not want to be in yourself. And to take money out of contributions to help this cause, let's say, well, I earned that money. You didn't earn it. People gave it to help them. All you did was oversee operations, and yeah, you earned a pay to pay you, since you could be giving your time to a for-profit company. That's legitimate. We'll pay you for your services, but we're going to set that compensation in the form of a salary at $300,000 a year. Let's say $600,000 a year. Is that not enough for you to operate this nonprofit so that we can take advantage of the funds being contributed and help the cause to which we're supposed to be here to help? They're going to say, assuming that you're not corrupt, you form a nonprofit organization because you're compelled to help people and naturally surround yourself with those who have the same inkling. They have the same desire to help people. You surround yourself with them. You don't surround yourself with people whose intent is to defraud or to manipulate or to lie or to deceive while raking in the money for themselves. That's not the purpose. It's certainly not honorable to jump into a nonprofit so that you can spearhead anything to get your hands on the money. Do you have the power to abuse them if you're in a executive position over a nonprofit? The answer is absolutely, yeah. You can abuse any nonprofit if you're in an executive position to kind of spearhead it and determine its direction. But at the end of the day, you know, what you take is what you could have put a smile on a poor child's face. If you're taking $2 million out a year for your salary, think about this. That's $2 million a year that the hungry need it, the thirsty need it, the sick need it, The diseased needed it. The abolished needed it. The homeless needed it. The ones who were hit with a disaster, they needed it. They needed it. But you took $2 million and put in your pocket out of the money that they needed. I was saying in the last video how the economy is so bad right now, as it has been many times before. Our members are in need. Our members need food. I talked about the price of a dozen of eggs. If eggs are that high, how in the world can people afford to put food on their table? Our people are homeless in some situations. Our people, our members, are living in cars. Our members are camping in tents. Our members are sleeping on boxes. I know certain people who have storage rooms, and some at times have lived or slept in a storage room on concrete floors. This ought not be. We can do better. We will do better. We must do better. Our people can't pay their bills. They can't pay their rent. And whenever that happens, because of situational incidents taking place within government or politics, our answer is to put them out of their apartment onto the street. We have cafeterias, but our members can't go to our cafeterias and get a meal for free, let alone the public. Our members who have put tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars into our organization cannot go into a cafeteria within the organization and get a free dinner. Our members can't do that. Forget about a family that has 5 children. They can't go in and eat for free. And this is why I put in another video that they are in a situation of need. And since they've been there, we've been here to help build and fund the organization. The organization has failed miserably to be there for its members. Not because the house of prayer is such a horrible place. The house of prayer didn't do this. The house of prayer is not at fault for this. It's the leaders of the house of prayer doing this. It's the leaders of the house of prayer who's at fault for this. Especially when you have ministers that have multiple homes, but the members don't know anything about it. When ministers have huge bank accounts that the members don't know nothing about. When the ministers are operating self-owned businesses that the members don't know nothing about. And the members are using those self-owned businesses and selling their services from their businesses to the house of prayer that the members don't know nothing about, so that they can take pay from the monies in the house of prayer that the members don't know nothing about. What the members do know about is that we've been building apartments, houses, and condominiums. We've been building luxury apartments that the members can't dwell or live in because the rents are too high. The members can't afford it. The members shouldn't have to be in a position where they can afford the rent, the properties that the house of prayer built, because once again, the members are the one that contributed the money to buy the land, to purchase the equipment, to buy all the materials, and to pay the workers to build those apartments in the first place. But the leaders have chosen to make a decision outside of the knowledge, without the consent of the members, outside of the approval of the General Assembly and allocating funds that none of the organization know anything about to put into these building projects that the members will never benefit from, while at the same time, simultaneously, putting members out of their so-called rent-reduced apartments that the House of Prayer leadership says it has built to help the members of the House of Prayer. But that money came from the members of the House of Prayer. And some of the people who's been put out of those apartments also contributed thousands or tens of thousands of dollars that same year to the organization that the leaders are saying, but you didn't pay your rent, so we got to put you out. I was saying in the last video to say thank you for your demonstration of love while collecting money from the members and not demonstrating love towards the members. That puts you in a position where you can easily be described and classified as a hypocrite, along with the pastors of the organization, who's not demonstrating or exemplifying their love for the members either. While the members come together and they're taking and taking and taking all this money to give to the bishop. And a bigger problem is they become hypocritical because on a weekly basis, they're sitting there asking the members to give them too, as pastors of the organization. Every week, pastor's offering. Let me give a demonstration, and I'm going to close this out. But then I'm going to talk about something else to kind of wrap up this whole problem with the program instead of an agenda for the General Assembly. I'm going to give you an idea of why these things are going this way. I have said that we're giving ridiculous liberties to our leadership as well as our CEO. One of those liberties is one in which nobody would ever get away with anywhere else. I'm going to read this last caption and then I'm going to talk about that liberty. This person that wrote this, they said, I'm going to leave you with one question. Is the job of managing a tax-exempt charity really more complex than running a 300 million plus population country? A country that has more than 300 million citizens. A country that has more than 300 million citizens. That company is being run by a president, governing, setting legislation, operating, overseeing a country that has more than 300 million residents and citizens. If the charity that you are operating is not more complex than that, if you don't have more than 300 million employees, 300 million, if you don't have more, then how do you justify, this is their question, your compensation and salary, which is 6 times or more, sometimes 10 times, sometimes 50 times. Your salary is 10 or more times than the president who's operating a country that has over 300 million residents. How do you justify that? The president of the United States, they get way less, significantly less than $1 million a year. The last time I checked, matter of fact, let's see. presidential salary of U.S. 2024, $400,000 a year, and an additional $50,000 for expenses. The president also has access to the use of furniture and other items belonging to the United States within the executive residence at the White House. $450,000 a year. That's a lot of money. It's enough money for you to live comfortably on and provide for your family. It's enough. But you have executives in for-profit companies getting paid millions of dollars a year. And now we have executives also in nonprofit companies also getting paid over $1 million a year. So with that said, let me talk about something. We have an executive director who has been given the liberty, according to himself, to write his own compensation, his own benefit plan. The board of directors, the General Assembly, they did not determine this. They did not decide this. The General Assembly is over the Constitution. But you have heard me say that the General Assembly did not write that. The General Assembly never discussed the auxiliary bylaws. Never. The General Assembly did not write this. The General Assembly never discussed the supreme laws. Never. The General Assembly, they didn't write this. The General Assembly never talked about the Are You Aware? Never. And now, the General Assembly, who's supposed to only be talking about the Constitution, has been rigged for all these years while the CEO has, behind closed doors, unknowingly got together with a handful of appointed and selected individuals to rewrite, by cunningly calling it revisions to the Constitution, and said that we recommend these changes. But they would print the books up and give their approval to sign off on it before the General Assembly even meets. And then they have it, the members vote on those changes, just so they can say that the members did it. And now they've been busted. And since I've been talking about this, our current, now technically suspended bishop is doing everything he can to try to sway the organization to ignore me by literally telling the people, openly telling the people to disregard these videos. He's openly telling the members of the organization to not listen to that nonsense on YouTube. He is openly, outright telling the members of the organization to not pay attention to one of its members who's telling the members of the organization that we have been lied to, that we have been manipulated, that we have been deceived by the leaders, to include our own CEO, which is the bishops. And now you have the current bishop, technically suspended, going around the country with the full powers of the office, ignoring our laws and the laws of the land, along with the other leaders, to sell the idea to the members of the organization that they're all legitimate, they're all doing what they're supposed to be doing. Y'all continue to comply with what we say. when our laws scream for help, they are changing us. They are amending us. They are fixing us, the law, to benefit themselves and hurt the people over and over and over again. This Constitution is the most dangerous Constitution that this organization has ever had. And this year, the delegates in the General Assembly need to do everything they can to ensure that they do not walk out of that meeting and this Constitution is still in effect. They need to do everything they can to make sure when they walk out of that meeting that that General Counsel has been removed, unless the General Counsel, a certain number, comes forward to say, we are going to comply and work with you who's trying to fix this organization. An offer has been extended for another week until next Friday to 20 men on the council. If they come forward confidentially to send me an email to the email that's been on this channel, their names will not be disclosed. But if 20 or more contact me, then the General Counsel will not be removed on that day. We will only be targeting the bishop, the current technically suspended bishop. The General Assembly Secretary will also be removed. But the General Counsel, if 20 or more come forward, they will not be removed on that day. If less than 20 come forward, then those individuals, less than 20, will not be removed, but the rest of them will be. They won't be removed on that day, but the rest of them will be. Now, if none of them come forward, no problem for us. All of them will still be removed on that day. But this offer has been extended because there was some information that surfaced in that there's a handful of them that are not in the knowledge of what's really going on behind closed doors. And so, to be fair to them, this offer is being extended, as well as the opportunity for them to come forward and work with us in order to allow us to know what they know, because there's been so much done behind closed doors, as well as to verify and confirm the information that I've been putting out to the organization, as well as non-members. But their names will not be disclosed. Now, that said, we don't need them. It's not necessary for them to do this. But there's an opportunity that's on the table. So now we're in this situation where the CEO is all out, just haywire, out of control, going forward in his violations to demand that he remain in the position that he's in, that he continues to retain the powers that he has over the organization, and to continue going forward within the black and white expressed language in our laws, which I say again is the most dangerous set of rules that the organization has ever had. If this Constitution remains in effect beyond this year, then what I fear is that the entire organization will be under a set of rules that will put the entire organization in a place where there's never anything they'll be able to do to fix corruption in the organization. Because in this Constitution, rules have been written to protect the bishop, no matter how corrupt he is, no matter what violations he commits, no matter what he does. There's placements in this Constitution that allow the helpers of the bishop to protect him and safeguard him against anybody who comes forward with accusations against him for wrongdoing. This must be done this year. This is what I'm going to show you now pertaining to the number one reason why this has to be fixed. This is a number that I came up with. That number is $419,670.54. Now you may be asking, well, what is that number? $419,670.54. This number, in my calculations, is the minimum amount that our CEO gets paid on a weekly basis. Over 400,000. I'm sure it's way more than that. But we're looking at $500,000 per week going into the pockets of our current technically suspended CEO. My calculations, $500,000 per week. $1 million every 2 weeks. 52 weeks in a year, divided by 2, 26. You're now looking at a $26 million salary, by my estimation, and I'm sure it's more than that, for being the CEO of this nonprofit organization, the United House of Prayer for All People. Now, who wrote that for him? The General Assembly did not give him a $26 million salary annually per year. To be the CEO here in 10 years' time, you're looking at a minimum of $260 million. Minimum in 10 years. Minimum. That's $250 million in 10 years' time. For what? What has this man or any other leader of the organization done to benefit the people? What have they done to operate the organization when the organization is continuing to slowly fall apart? It's been falling apart for over 50 years, 60 years, 70 years. I can literally go back and present magazine articles, newspaper articles, as well as the epistles written by the leaders. I have epistles from the 1920s that show the leaders saying, we are in need of money. This is necessary. That is necessary. And pleading. My point is, these are my numbers. Now, you may be asking, how in the world did he come up with those numbers? Okay. Well, let's look at this. I said $419,670 every week. So if you take, let's say we have convocation season. That's 12 straight weeks. Convocation season, 12 straight weeks, where our bishop is going to be in service. Again, looking at this book, it says, according to Article 15 of the Supreme Laws for the Government of the United House of Prayer, a free will offering shall be taken by the congregation for the bishop whenever he's present in service. So whenever he's present in service, a free will offering is going to be taken. So all we have to do is look at how many times he's present in service. Okay, so if that's the case, well, we know he's going to be present in service for convocation season. And when you look at that, you're going to have 12 straight weeks of convocation. That's 12 times he's going to be in service. Oh, but wait a minute. He's going to be in service for convocation from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's 3 days. Now, our members right now are saying, wait a minute, not 3 days, it's 4. Because we're going to have youth service where he's going to be present too. And now you know why. Oh, we didn't think about that. So are you telling me, Brother Lewis, that the bishop added a night to convocation stops? Not because he's thinking about the young people, but because he's thinking about the money and the revenue that can be generated just by being in service? And I'm saying absolutely. Because 12 times 3 is 36. That's 36 nights he's going to be present in service, and he's going to get donations and offerings as compensation. To add another night, Thursday night, you get from 36, now you're at 48. 12 stops of convocation, adding one more night, goes from 36 nights to 48 nights where he's going to be compensated. People are going to be given money during the program. People are going to be giving money throughout the service, on his way in, on his way out. People are going to be giving money on the bands. Bands pass up loads of money. Choirs bringing up money. The senior department going to march around, and they're going to put money in the pan. That's the adults. Then the young people are going to march around. They're going to put money in the pan. Then the baby's going to come around, and parents are going to give them money to give to him. That's compensation. What is not called compensation are the love gifts that the pastors are going to bring up, and they're going to present to him, coming from every house of prayer in that area. That's on top of what he's already received in the Love March. What's not considered compensation are the buses that went there also. That those buses, they've contributed towards Love Gift. So let's look at this. 4 nights every week times 12 is 48. Let's say, and I'm going to be very, very modest. Let's say that's $50,000 each night. That's being very, very generous, being not generous, but modest, because I'm sure it's more than that. And if I go into detail, then you will easily see why. But let's say 50,000 times 4. So 50,000 times 4 nights times 4 times 12 weeks. Okay? That alone is $2,400,000. That's just convocation stop up and down the East Coast, those 12 weeks. Now, that's not to include LA. Let me write this down. 2.4 million. 2.4 million. That's not to include LA. Convocation in LA, that's 7 nights from Monday to Sunday. Okay? Now, I might be wrong, but I don't remember Sunday to Sunday services in LA. I remember Monday night being the first night. So that's 7 nights. 7 nights in LA. They got same thing. Love marches. And people are going to be given. So let's say 7 nights. 7 times 50,000 equals $350,000. Let's add 2.4 million. 2,400,000. Okay. 2,750,000. Now that's not including Miami. Miami is 2 weeks. Miami is going to be 4 nights, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, for 2 weeks. So that's 8 more days. 8 times 50 is another 400,000. So we're going to add 400,000. $3,150,000. Midwest tour. That's another 7 days. 50,000 each. 350,000 plus 350. Let me see. Southern Tour. Southern Tour might be another 8 stops. So let's add 400,000. Northern Tour might be, let's say 9, as he pops around up north and coming down to DC. 9 stops, another 450,000. And that's going to be plus the 3,150,000. Okay, I did lose a number just now, but again, all of this is approximates. So we have Memorial Day. We know there's Father's Day, Christmas, New Year's. Memorial Day is going to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's another 4 nights. Father's Day is a weekend. That's 2 nights. That's 6 total. Mother's Day is normally a weekend. That's 2 nights. That's another 8. That's $400,000 there. Christmas, that's 2 nights. New Year's is 1. That's another 150. Again, these are approximates. You have the Midwest tour. Let's add 7 days to the Midwest. Another 350. And now we have Memorial Day. We've added that. 4th of July is 3, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Another 150. Now, besides that, that's just the love gift during the Love March and money handed up, called, compensation. Now, on the buses, we have buses that come, all these stops, and they're taking up money on the buses. So let's just add 2 buses. We have, I think, 21, a fleet of 21 luxury liners. Let's add just 2 buses, average. I'm being very, very, very modest. Average for all of these stops. All of these stops have totaled 115 stops for the year. That's a guess that I have. Out of 365 days, he's making approximately 115 visits throughout the year with all of these dates combined. We're talking about convocations, Northern Tour, Southern Tour, Midwest, holidays, events, maybe 115. And that's also to include the other houses where people are going to gather throughout the year. 115 stops. So let's just say total collective 115 days he's out for the year. Let's say there's 2 buses, and we're being modest. Some stops, there might be 10 or 15 buses. Memorial Day weekend, you're going to have all the buses. Everybody's going. Miami, you might have a grip of buses. Charlotte, you're going to have, so let's just say 2. 2 buses, 115 nights. Okay, so 115. 115 times, and let's just say that each bus is raising $20,000. Sometimes it's way more than that. Sometimes it's less than that. Let's just average 20,000 on each bus, times 115. The number of days for 2 buses, if they raise $20,000 on each bus, that's another 2.3 million. Let's add to what we already had total. Okay, and then let's not forget, besides the buses, one last thing. Oh, love gift that the congregations raise outside of the round marches or the love marches, when we have love gift along with G class, the pastors coming to present love gift. We have 137 houses, congregations, and they're going to raise and present love gifts 2-3 times a year. Okay, but we're not even going to add those 2 or 3 times a year. Let's just say every house is given $15,000 one time a year. And we know it's way more than that. Way more than that. But once a year, or total for the entire year, let's just say every congregation is given $15,000. Some given $100, some given $200. But let's say everyone's given $15,000. Okay, so 15 times 137 congregations for the year. That's on top of what we had just now. Okay. Now, so far, we're at 90, almost 95, 9.5 million for the year. Now, I did this, and I don't want to go any further, taking up any more time. We're over an hour on this video. But without going any further, without adding everything, we're not including money that's coming down the aisle. We're not including the clubs, the bands, the choirs. Let's do one more. We know that the tithes, I made a video earlier, maybe 2 videos ago. Tithes, according to the Bible, goes to the priests. I know tithes are going to him, the leaders, the bishop. It's not going into the house of prayer account as house of prayer money. It's going to him. Why? Because the Bible says the tithes go to the priest. Now, I know that earlier in our organization, the tithes came up in the discussion where the leader gave the pastors an option. Do you want a part of the tithes, or do you want your own offering to be set up for you? And the way that I was told is they opted for their own separate offering. They didn't want to take a split of the tithes coming from the organization. They figured that they would get more if they just took up their own offering from the congregations. So that's what they did. Long story short, the tithes then went to the bishop. The pastors now have their own individual offering, and that's how that started. So since they know, the ones amongst the council at the top know that the tithes go to the bishop, every single year, what do we see in the house of prayer? We see every year when they come together for convocation, they're checking pastors to see if tithes is going up or tithes is going down. Why is it so important for them to embarrass a pastor openly and tell everybody who's present their tithes is going down? And they stress the importance of tithing. Why? Because it's another means of putting more money in the bishop's pocket. Let's say that I know of a congregation, one of the missions, they were right around 65,000 annually with that congregation giving tithes. So that congregation might have had a total income, since tithes is 10% of your income, that congregation had about $650,000 in the year that they brought into their personal finances, their money. Not into the house of prayer, that's their money. They're paying tithes off of their personal income, using to operate their own living expenses. Tithes was a part of that. $650 income would yield $65,000 in tithes. We know that everybody's not paying 10%, but to give you an idea of the size of that congregation, might have been 20 people. Okay, out of 20 people, $65,000. So let's just average, since that was a mission, and we know that there's some houses giving $200,000 in tithes. We know that. But let's be modest and give every single congregation for the year $65,000 that they're reporting in tithes. Since I'm saying, whether you believe it or not, I'm saying that that money is going to him. 65,000, 9485. 65,000 times 137 congregations equals 8.9 million for the year, plus 8095 now. My numbers are a little bit off while doing this and trying to think at the same time. There's something I know I'm missing. I wrote it down. But again, this is just, it's me off the cuff. You know and I know that there's more than that. You know that the tithes in many of the houses is way more than that. You know that the love gifts from the buses, many houses, way more than that. You know, the buses, there's way more than 2 buses going out to these events. You know that. My point is this. If this is how much is collecting in a year, and we know that this is not accurate, let's divide that by 52. Even though that this is not accurate, and I know I missed something because it was $400 and almost $500,000 a week. It was at 400 and I think 418,000. But this is where I'm at now. And I put the list that I had made down, but I'm not going to take the time to find it. But even this much, at $340,000 a week, our president makes $400,000 a year. This is almost a week. And how is it that he's getting this much? Because the General Assembly did not write out a salary. The General Assembly did not say how much he's going to get paid. Well, here's the bigger problem. Y'all ready for this? The genius in this is that the bishop is not getting paid out of the monies coming into the organization. That's genius. The bishop's salary is not even a salary because no one knows how much money he's getting in compensation because no salary is set. And the organization's not taking a hit. This is beautiful. It's criminal-minded, but it's genius. Because the organization's not taking a hit. What I mean by that, the house of prayer is not dispersing funds from its account in order to pay the CEO an annual salary. The house of prayer is not paying the CEO at all because the CEO has some way, somehow been able to get away with writing his own ticket and saying, no. I'm not going to touch the house of prayer accounts. I'm not going to get paid out of the house of prayer funds. Instead, I will forego a payment and salary from the organization. As long as y'all don't have a problem with me writing my own ticket, I get money by taking the people and have them give me more money on top of the money going into the organization, on top of the house offering and the fast sacrifice offering and the state assessments, on top of the tithing that y'all don't know is going to me, on top of the G class, on top of the board report, on top of any other expense that you're taking money to put into the house of prayer. When I come to town, I'm not touching the account, but y'all make a call for the people to get in line and give me money. And that'll be my compensation. And the little thing that I just did to come up with over $339,000 a week, and that's way short, to put you at $17 million a year. And in the beginning, I think I came up with a little over $20 million a year. In fact, it was right at 23 or 24 million. I did this earlier this afternoon. My point is this. When you have that much money coming in and no accountability, and you're only calling a portion of it income, that means all this other money is not income, but it comes in to me. You are getting over hand over fist. And here's a bigger problem. At $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a week, while members are struggling to pay $10 for a carton of eggs, struggling to make ends meet, struggling to put gas in their car, while they're struggling to take care of their medical needs and their family as well as pets, while they're struggling to make rent and have to worry about getting put out of an apartment that has maintenance problems. And right now you got individuals not able to live in their apartment because of maintenance problems. And while maintenance is there to repair the maintenance problem, the members having to put up more money to stay in a short-term hotel. They're still expected to pay their rent. While all this is going on, here's my biggest problem with this. When the bishop travels around the organization, the members still got to go into their pocket and pay more money for his food, for a rental car if he doesn't have the cars that he brings. They got to pay money for hotels. And I told you, Chicago alone, the members got to come up with another $10,000 to $12,000 for that one night in the Ritz-Carlton where he and his ensemble's going to stay. We can do better. We will do better. We must do better. We've got to do better. Change is coming. When I come back, we're going to go into another portion and we're going to do the breakdown of what the meeting should look like compared to what the meeting has looked like in our past. See you in the next video.